So, Mike, how concerned are you with Lamar's regression this year?
I'm not concerned at all with Lamar. I think with Lamar, you can teach him to do anything possible on the football field, and he can conquer it. I think he's just that talented. I think he's just that competent. What I am worried about is the scheme that the Baltimore Ravens is running, and the teams are catching up with the scheme. And what I don't want to happen with Lamar is what happened with Tyrod Taylor under Greg Roman and his offense. And his offense can be dynamic, and I love what they do. And they can come out and they can shock you at times. But, you know, when teams have a chance to scheme it, you know, it tends to slow down and get stymied a little bit. And it's not as fluent as we would think it should be. And I think Lamar's, victim of that right now. What they have to start doing, because I know they're getting a ton of 8-man boxes, and I'll probably go watch some film on them, let's take advantage of, the one-on-ones on the outside. We know they like to play the game in between the hashes with the tight ends, and, that's easy to scheme for. And like I said, Lamar can learn anything that you want to teach him. So the one-on-ones, taking advantage of the 8-man boxes, you got to implement that. And if I'm not mistaken, Lamar was vouching for a guy like Antonio Brown, throughout the offseason, a guy who can take advantage of, the 8-man boxes and the one-on-ones outside and change the flow and the pace of the game. So, there's no excuses as, to why we should think it's been a regression for Lamar, because there somewhat has been. But, when you're running the same scheme over and over again, teams are going to start to catch up with that. So things have to happen, moving forward, and it's going to have to happen fast, because it's a lot of football to play, and there's some good teams out there that can scheme and know how to stop, what you're trying to do if it all looks the same.
I'm not overly concerned with regression. I'm more concerned with that I haven't seen progression. That's what I'm concerned with. And we keep talking about it, because here's the thing, Mike. I believe he has the receivers. Hollywood Brown can beat one-on-one coverage. I believe they have some guys that can beat one-on-one coverage. But are we sure, is where Lamar is right now, that he can consistently get to that and throw that and complete that? You're talking to a guy that, if you look at, Skip and I talked about this earlier, in big games, and I listed 3 games against Kansas City, 2 games against Pittsburgh, and the playoff games. He's 1-6, 9-8, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 53% completion percentage. Mike, in today's game, if you're not in the mid-60s, you bull jiving, because the game is so spread open, the way they protect the receivers, all the incidental contact, the way they protect the quarterback. That's why you see a lot of these top quarterbacks, they 65, 70% of completion percentage. If you look at his numbers against the other teams, he's 23-1, 123, lost 1, 65% completion, 13 turnovers, and the other 1-6, he's 14 turnovers. So he's turned the ball over in 7 games more than he's turned it over in 24 games. The regression, I'm not worried about regression. I'm worried about progression, because in order for him to get to where he ultimately wants to be, he's going to have to throw the football. But, Mike, I know you noticed this. Tampa was one of the teams that gave you problems. And what could Tampa do? And who was the wide DB coach on Tampa? The head coach at Pittsburgh. Tony Dungy was the head coach. The DB coach was Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin understands, okay, this is what we're going to take away. We're not going to let him run wild, and we're going to take away the quick throws. Now, if he wants to go through a progression and get the ball down the field, have at it. We go to the middle of the field, we shake his hand. Hell of a job, son. We'll see you down the road. But until he can consistently do that, this is going to be a problem, because in order for him to get to where he needs to be, Mike, the last team that really ran themselves to a Super Bowl were the 72 Dolphins. If your quarterback can't make throws, I'm talking about big-time throws and big-time moments, you're not going to the Super Bowl.
So, Michael, you have been a mentor to this young man, big brother to Lamar, and I want to stress that you do not win the MVP of this league by accident.
Nope.
Right.
He has unbelievable talent, and to me, he has unbelievable football toughness, football character, football IQ. And yet, even though I picked the Ravens to win it all this year because of Lamar, I'm having trouble with him mostly in big home games. That's what concerns me, because both the playoff losses were at home. The loss to Mahomes this year was on Monday Night Football in Baltimore. And yesterday, obviously, was in your building, and you got to defend your turf. And instead, he put the ball on the turf 4 times because he had, well, obviously 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost, 3 fumbles total. You just can't do that. And I don't know if he's trying to do too much at home. Shannon brought up the point that it's not Madden, and I start to think, well, is he trying to be Madden? Is he trying to live up to the hype? You remember, Michael, what happened to you, the Michael Vick experience in Atlanta? Were there times when you tried to do too much because you were trying to live up to outrageous, just runaway hype? Address that, if you would.
You know, it's funny you said that, Skip, because my next take was going to be, look, I'm watching Lamar in this scheme, and year one always goes well. It's always, you know, things that surface that people never seen, and you know, he rushes for 1,000 yards, and it happened with me. My first year in the West Coast system, you know, when Jim Moore joined the 49ers, it wasn't the system for me, but I made it work. You know, I ran close to 1,000 yards. Long story short, we went to the NFC Championship game, and I'm thinking the next year it's going to be easy. We'll get back, and teams started to watch film. They caught up with the scheme. All of a sudden, you know, what I was doing wasn't working anymore. And I'm like, you know, looking at it like, I got to be this type of player. I got to be dynamic. I got to rush for a certain amount of yards. I got to throw for a certain amount of yards. And it just wasn't there because the defense is a scheme to stop the run and then take away the pass. And, you know, I just felt like I was in a situation where I couldn't win. And you get caught up in the things that you've done the year before and the successes that you've had, and you think it's just going to come naturally, but the scheme has to evolve. And that's why I say now they have to go through some things, go to some, you know, one-on-one type of throws. We don't know if Lamar can do it if he's regressed from that. We know he has to go out and do it and try it in order for us to see if he can actually do it. And that's the only way it's going to happen. If not, when they run up against the tougher teams and better defenses, we're going to see what we've seen in the playoffs and what we've seen yesterday, because those guys scheme for this, and they scheme to take away the things that you don't do so well.
That's the biggest key. The thing is that you mentioned is that when you got to the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, you went to Lambeau Field, you beat the Packers, and you said you thought you were gonna just take off from there. The biggest key, Mike, is adaptability. When I move from wide receiver to tight end, there's one thing a DB pressing you, Skip, and shoving you. It's a whole different ball game when a linebacker or defensive end putting his hands on you. So now I got to get stronger. I got to be able to fight through that contact. Well, now, okay, they understand he really wants to do everything with his legs. Let's take these legs away and see, can we make him beat us with his arms only? And until he can do that, and we see what they started doing with Mahomes, everybody wanted to just drop people. Mahomes said, you know what? Y'all want to drop all the people in coverage? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off running. I'm going to make you play me honestly. That's what you have to do. Lamar's going to have to adapt because teams that wanted to cut his legs off, he's going to have to now beat them with his arm. And if he can't do that, it's going to be tough sledding because Big Ben is in that division. And this year, Mike, you know there's only one bye. So everybody else got to play opening week, got to play playoff weekend. And Mahomes is not going anywhere. You look at Indy, I don't know, but Indy looking real good. Their defense is looking real good, and Phillip Rivers is playing well. So they got to have their work cut out for them. But they're going to have to find a way, and Lamar is going to have to find a way to evolve and become I'm not saying he needs to be Brady or he needs to be Mahomes, but 180, 185 yards a game throwing the football, Mike, ain't going to cut it in 2020.
They ain't going to cut it. I mean, look,
go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just going to say, you know, fast forward 6 years later, for me in my career, you know, I learned to become a better passer. I just think now is the time to help Lamar progress into becoming a better passer. And the only way he can do that is to actually do it in live game action.
Yep. So Hollywood Brown has real, raw track speed. He can run past people.
Yeah.
And he posted, was it a tweet that he then deleted? which took a shot at somebody. The scheme, Greg Roman, it's just wrong that he's not getting more targets than he got yesterday. And yet he and Lamar are homeboys, obviously, from Miami, right? And I think they're very close. So I can't interpret that as a shot at Lamar. It's got to be back to Michael's original point, right? It's got to be about Greg Roman.
Yeah, it's a shot at the coach. It's definitely a shot at Greg Roman. When you keep everything confined, and that's why I referenced Tyrod. That second year in Buffalo, it was hard for Tyrod, and it was no offense generated. And you're asking the quarterback to do a lot more. And then once you in the middle of the season, it's hard to just switch up the scheme because now you're adding different protections. 5-man protection, 6-man, sometimes 7-man, and things can get complicated and you don't have enough time. So Hollywood Brown is right. You got to take advantage of those, put them on the outside, let them run some goals, some deep comebacks, some deep dig routes, simplify the game and then utilize the run game. Just got to put some time and effort into building a strong run scheme to support the passing game.
But he's going to have to, at the end of the day, Mike, he's just going to have to take what they give him. He has a flat route that's holding the deep by. He tries to throw it over the deep guy's head, and the guy picks it. Just take the flat route. He's working one side. He has the guy, and now he tries to come all the way back, and the guy picks it for a pick six. You don't have to be spectacular every single play. You don't have to make every single play. The defense won. You know what? You know what? They got me. Throw it away. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, you're not the only one making plays. You're not the only one that's really good out there, Lamar. You're going to have to understand that sometimes the defense wins. Let them win. Just don't turn the football over. When you turn it over twice, they're going in for another score. He fumbles. Bud Dupree strips him of the football. They're up 17-7. They're in complete control of this ball game. He throws the interception. Guess what? Steelers go right back down the field. They're right back in the ball game, 17-14. It's his mistakes that's
Cam Newton.
Yep.
Just like Cam Newton, Lamar woke up. He's gonna wake up this morning knowing that, look, I got to take the blame for this one. I got to take the onus. It was on me.
And you don't forget about those ones easily, right? You mentioned that earlier, Mike. Yep. Thank you for a full day of work. It was so nice to have you joining us on a Monday. We appreciate it. We'll check in with you very soon. But this next one is actually for Shannon. Was it Aaron Rodgers or his defense that let Green Bay down yesterday? That
they lost.
is next.
Whatever.
At home?